Welcome back to the new professional StarCraft 2. I'm always excited to introduce the most relatable player in the top left. He might make micro mistakes, but his masterful macro will more than make up for it. It's the people's Terran. It's Cure. On the other side, though, literally the most difficult opponent that he could possibly face. He needs no introduction, but I gotta justify my presence here, so I give you the #1 StarCraft 2 player in the world. The greatest of all time, in my not-so-humble opinion. It is the finisher. It's Serral. Best of 5. Terran versus Zerg. A few details before we start. I think important ones. Before we even talk about the new patch, these two faced not a month ago, a few weeks, a month, in the Masters Coliseum 6 Finals. $40,000 major tournament. Might not be the World Finals, but pretty damn close. And so, here's how that series went. Best of 7. Game 1 went to Cure. Game 2 through 5 went pretty convincingly to Serral. He kind of swept the floor with him after that. So, considering that, just a few weeks ago on the old patch, we saw these two face off, I think this is going to be our best possible comparison, both of Serral, with the new changes, many nerfs to Zerg, we'll go over in a moment, and of how Terrans are kind of adapting as well. But there's one thing I won't adapt, I won't compromise on, and that's begging you for likes and subscribes. Thank you for tuning in. Jimmy, 1,151 likes. If we get that on this video, on this cast, I'll cast another series. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get a little bit better. I have my suspicions this won't be a short series. We've already seen... Okay, well, we got to start off now. Never mind, we're jumping right into it. The new Cyclone. The new Cyclone. The Cyclone, now the short version is it's a lot more fragile, but it can be built out of reactors. Instead of 150, 100, it now costs 125 minerals and 50 gas. So you got to stop thinking of it as an expensive unit and more like a stalker, except it does real damage. But so the Cyclone still can lock on, and it does so without a cooldown automatically. But it is slower overall. But it does have a speed upgrade, which Hurricane Thrusters brings the Cyclone not particularly fast, but closer to its older speed. So generally the Cyclone is more brittle, but you can build a lot more of them. And quantity has a quality all of its own. Now, just some cliff notes for the later game. I'll try to bring up relevant changes as they come up, but things to note and might be affecting the opening builds. 1, Banelings got a severe nerf. They now no longer get bonus damage from upgrades against light. They still get upgrade damage, but this means Marines take a lot less, Hellions. As well as getting 5, they no longer get 5 HP when Baneling speed is completed. Which means every single Baneling goes from 35 to 30 HP. Players like Serral have already been kind of experimenting with Baneling-less builds. That sounds very weird to say, but... and right now we have another one of them. Instead of going for a quick 3 hatch for all that larva and production, Serral has rushed roach speed and is getting an infestation pit at the 4.5 minute mark. And the infester, the pathogen glands upgrade has been removed. No longer plus 25 starting energy upgrade, because you just get the starting energy right off the bat. So the infester pops out with fungal growth. But that fungal now only does 25 damage instead of 30, and has a little less cast rage. So you get fungal a bit quicker, a bit earlier, but it isn't quite as effective. For reference, Marines with combat shield have 55 HP. The Cyclone has 110. That means 3 fungals instead of 2 to kill Marines. And I can't even count that high, but 4, 5 to kill Cyclones. So it's more of a slow than it is a damage output option. I mean, certainly it doesn't hurt. The roaches coming out here, hiding in the corner from the clones, which now have speed done. Let's focus on the game here, Winter, please. And maybe stop talking in third person or like you're narrating the patch notes. We already have a video on that in the description, right, Jimmy? Right? Sorry. 1 infester on the way. Serral getting enough roaches out to ward away the Cyclones. Very He was under 50 drones up until just a moment ago. I think he finally feels comfortable enough, but the Cyclones slip in. There is 1-2 siege tanks at home. The Roaches are going to be driven back. It's kind of crazy. Cure is shifting from... Oh my god, the Cyclones are in the main. He loses a couple. There's a quarter Cyclone HP in between these. Gets a couple drones. I don't know if that was worth it. Overall, actually, Serral has lost a little bit more in the way of minerals, but all that map control is gone. So Cure, even though he opened with the mass clones, is now shifting into Marine tank. Yeah, I was like, Cure's gonna go mech? Nope. He's gonna go double factory into just a bio build. I mean, a bit bio-curious. He likes to experiment with mech units, but at the end of the day, Marines and more Marines and maybe some siege tanks will be the choice. Serral, wow, Serral really focused on the tech here. Getting a hive at 7 minutes. He has no upgrades in production. He got a double Evo chamber, but he wants to smash. That's 5 siege tanks. That siege line is literal. Yeah, Cure has lined them up far enough apart that Corrosive Bile can't get any sort of double hit, but close enough to still probably participate in the fight. And the Infestor out of nowhere, but the Marines are able to dodge away from it. The Marines are going to get cleaned up here, but he kills enough of the Ravagers that any chance of a follow-up attack is essentially non-existent. Maybe Serral will try to pick off a few SCVs, but 1 Ravager, handful of Roaches. 3 Ravagers are enough to one-shot those tanks, or 1 volley, if you want to get pedantic about it. Lurker Rush. So, noted changes here are the severe lack of upgrades out of Serral. Instead of focusing on making sure his massive army is stronger, he's really focusing on the tech instead. And now he knows for sure it's going to be Marines. As a follow-up, it's not going to be mech. So, Lurker Den, ranged attack, Carapace, notably 0 Baneling Nest, though he did get Zergling speed. He's filling a few in, but yeah, maybe just something to draw siege tank fire or do a counterattack. But not a Baneling Nest whatsoever. Gonna take down some of the rocks here on hard lead. Kind of surprising amount of them out on the field if you go looking. Does open up the map a lot once you take them all down. A few more sets in the middle on the closest attack path as well. Fun or not so fun fact, depending on whether or not you're Dustin Bratter. Vipers, Lurkers. It's going to be a very high-tech Zerg composition. He's already getting both flavors of spellcasters. Cure, on the other hand, sitting back, siege tanks. He's already got +2 on the way. Ghost Academy, more command centers, Vikings, just a few Vikings maybe. Oh, there was a changeling in the pipe 5x5, right, boys? Wait a second, that's not your line. Meanwhile, I believe an Overseer just got taken out, so a little bit, not a win, but something for Cure to deny some scouting. Serral surprisingly dangerous. Was it an Overseer? He's lost 2. Overlord speed on the way. Serral's gonna make sure that never happens again. Another key point, Lurkers no longer get a speed benefit from the Adaptive Talons upgrade. All it does is help them burrow more quickly, which is still very nice. But they're no longer able to maneuver as much, especially if they're not inside Overlords. Dropper Lords got about a 10% speed buff, by the way. Which, this is the first time I've seen anyone build them, so... An Overlord scouting that Vikings are indeed prepared for a potential Lurker drop. Serral drops out well out of vision here. Cure still pretty far off of maxed out, despite how long he's been sitting back. Here comes Serral, a couple Vipers. Yanks in a tank, Blinding Cloud on the front line, and the Vikings are able to pick off one of the Vipers. Without Blinding Cloud, the siege tank should be doing terrible damage here. Well, he's able to get close enough to start slicing at the command center. The orbital, certainly uncomfortable here. He may have to lift it. The siege tank's moving, leapfrogging forward. There's that Bane nest out of Serral. Realizing that lurker timing is probably not going to cut it. Adaptive Talon's about to complete. Full energy Infestor on the back line, but Lurker gets obliterated by the tank fire. And Cure just leapfrogging forward, trying to get closer to max. Now, he's got 4 ghosts hanging out in the main, even one of them even waving there. They've been idle for so long. Apparently, they start doing those animations. Cure, bring the ghosts up! Well, Fungal attempted here. The Infestor looks like it's targeted by the tank. Doesn't quite die. Here are the ghosts. Lurkers are slicing through. The Vikings trying to get involved, though they're not quite sure how, it seems. And Serral just methodically slicing away at the center line, but the ghosts will fire back. More shots coming through. So the ghost snipe was reduced in damage to 130, and I think 120 or 120, 120, 130. The net result is it still takes the same amount of snipes to kill every unit but an Ultralisk or a Roach. It now takes slightly more than 1 snipe to kill a Roach and 5 snipes instead of 4 to kill an Ultra. Units do have more HP if they do survive a snipe, but still 1 to kill Vipers, Hydras, Infestors, and still 2 to kill Lurkers and Broodlords. So EMP radius was also reduced from 1.75 to 1.5, which definitely could become relevant, but Infestor cast range was reduced by 1. So actually it's a little harder to protect your units from EMP there. Hydras, Lings, and Banes on the center line here. Looking for as much damage. Well, Baneling's rolling in for the planetary. Serral rolls that last Bane in. He finishes it off. But, oh, it was a close thing indeed. Cure protecting his main base really solidly and now feeling comfortable enough to venture out onto the map since for the first time since the Cyclones were slaughtered. And then immediately realizing maybe that's a mistake. Some Lurkers are coming back. They were attempted in a drop here for Serral. He realized he's a bit out of position. The concave is looking good, but a double siege with ghost support here. Cure's in a great spot to begin working forward. Snipes off some of the Lurkers. The Lurker's just not getting the shots. All the ghosts can line up their snipes. Only the ones that use it will use the energy. But Blinding Cloud on a couple siege tanks will allow the Hydras to close in and pick off the Liberators. Siege line's starting to be dismantled. On the back line, Baneling's not able to close the distance. And Serral starting to struggle a little bit here as Cure and his ball of ghosts with a few tanks in support. Even some Overlords wandering in. Clearly, the Baneling's not getting the damage they needed, and that's partially because he doesn't even have +1 melee attack. Cure has built the right army for the job right now, and Serral simply doesn't have a response to it. That's Cure's macro at work. He just knows what he needs, and he's gotten it now. There's still a few Banelings rolling in. The Fungal doesn't catch much. The Banelings will force back a lot of the army. The Hydras might have enough DPS to break through. Infestor is sniped. Tries to line up some more. Not quite there. Cure is establishing the center base during all of this. He's driven back the creep. Serral's expanded outwards as he's been pushed forward and kind of flattened out. The ghosts wandering forward. Maybe we'll see Caduceus Reactor, the medevac energy regen upgrade. Now that these medevacs are seemingly out of energy, though it does require a fusion core, it replaces my favorite upgrade, rapid reignition thrusters. No longer the medevac speed and boost cooldown, but instead potentially double the energy regen. Doesn't heal faster, but these situations where your units would rather be in rehab than on the battlefield alleviates that a bit. Also consume slightly less HP for the cost. It's instead of 200 per consume for about 100 energy, I believe it's 100. It is 150. So less risk of killing your own buildings. Makes the Queen renewable energy system a little easier. So these are relatively small things, but they add up over time, especially with how many consumes Serral uses. Not that he was at risk of losing his own buildings to his own Vipers, usually. But the ghosts lining up the shots. Meanwhile, looks like a Marine drop was attempted. It did not go great. Yeah, definitely could have gone better. But so far, well, Cure actually backs up. Is there neural parasite done? What a weird spread. It's so weird to see that cyclone speed upgrade in there. Where's the 3-3 cure? He's got ghosts, he's got liberators, but he doesn't have 3-3 infantry weapons and armor. Serral's starting to catch up. The greater spread. I do question why he backed off. I'm not sure. Like, he's maxed out. And Serral's doing a lot of counterattacks, but it feels like he gave up. He knew Serral was going to, maybe it was the medevac energy. But it felt like Cure he was acting like he was all in, despite the fact he was at a comfortable amount of bases. Serral has maintained a solid economy throughout this, even when he lost that center base. Did not lose the sheer amount of drones he has, and there's still plenty of mining bases on the map. But it does feel like Cure kind of got cold feet there. When he was pressing Serral back, he had a 20-30 supply advantage. And he just, well, his medevacs were out of energy. His units were badly bruised, and he was pressing into the most beautiful flank you could ever get, pretty much. So, I can see why he was hesitant. But still, kind of an odd scenario. Drops on either side, sensor towers dotting the field now. Cure has pretty good coverage, I would say. But Serral is starting to expand. He's in the top right corner. Of course he is. You give him an inch, he'll take a kilometer. We got 3 more factories. As Cure has decided to make a stop at McDonald's here. Fusion core on the way, and a nuclear missile has been created. Ghost is being sent out. And let's see, did we get the right? Do it. Do the thing. Oh my god, he's going to the natural. What a guy. Do the nuke. Where are you going? Why are you going into the main? Just nuke the natural. There you go. There's probably not even any drones there anymore. He nukes the natural. We'll see if Serral... Meanwhile, while this is happening, he takes out a base. Probably the cleanest way, the nuke just kind of absorbing Serral's attention. Still gets 6 drones. Not bad. Maybe some of those drones were at the top right. I'm not sure. But... yeah, definitely could have been worse. Vikings. Oh, lurkers are already here. It's weird to see Vikings dying to lurkers, but there you go. 3-3 will finish for Cure. Serral is maxed out with money in the bank. Cure as well, just not quite as much. Cure has been significantly more cost effective here. 13. That one infestor though. There's always the one infestor, it feels like, for Serral. I don't know how they get there, but he somehow finds one spot. He's looking for it. The infestor pops out there. The fungal and the banelings roll in. And he doesn't even waste them. He doesn't even keep rolling. He gets enough to kill that clump. And he uses them like a explosive shield. You get close enough, bad things happen. You stay too far away, the same thing as well. 16 SCVs go down as Serral sends some units to the top right. Cure. He's now filling in the rest of the upgrades, pretty much. He's got mech armor, smart servos, neo-steel armor for buildings, high-sec auto-tracking, infernal pre-igniter, and +3. Oh, yanks some tanks and blinding cloud on those he can. Nuclear missile to the bottom left, simultaneously. And Cure. Well, keeping the pressure on Serral here for sure. It looks like Serral noticed the he may have noticed it right when it launched, and then just waited, because otherwise you're just not mining for 20-something seconds. Another attempt. So, Hell Chads are no longer in existence. So a pretty big nerf to the very late game of Terran was that Blue Flame Hellbats no longer have enough damage to one-shot Zerglings. So, they leave them, I believe, with 1 or 2 HP. They no longer benefit with the bonus light damage, much like the Baneling nerf. So, the age of the Hell Chad is not over, but still quite strong at absorbing damage. The Ghosts are able to fall back in time. The Banelings still being used as quite a shield here. As Serral picks apart another round of defenses. Cure is struggling to put any money in the bank, whereas Serral has plenty. The income only for the Mule Peak there, and then the Serral Valleys. Show you the income. As Kira was unable to really lock down Serral's economy in any meaningful way. And now we see the finisher move. Pun somewhat intended. 12 Corruptors. Those aren't anti-air. I mean, they could be. But that smells like Broodlords. The stench of Broodlords. And anticipation, but mostly Broodlords on the air. And now we see why. 9 Broodlords. 12 Broodlords. Oh, some more notes. Broodlings nerfed significantly. 30 to 20 HP. But the Broodlord got about a 20% speed boost. If my math is good, which it probably isn't, but it did get a significant speed boost. So, easier to clear up the Broodlings when they're down there, but the Broodlord can get into... Oh, he did... Serral still manages... Those nukes have such a surprisingly small radius, but they're relatively cheap, so... Throwing nukes out there. Quite a game one, I will say. Both players, like... Kira has made some interesting strategic decisions, but I think he's playing very well when it comes to the actual execution. The only thing to be questioned is maybe why he decided to pull back at that stage. But he's still maxed out, and he still has plenty of ghosts, which has been a struggle in the past for Kira to keep those ghosts alive. Those siege tanks on the high ground, full energy Vipers, but Blinding Cloud is used, and a bunch of Ling Bane is making its way up towards that top left corner. The Banelings. Ooh, Planetary Fortress. Even more effective against them, but right up until the Banelings decide to apply their effects to the Planetary. Kira has some zoning planetaries as well, but once again, Serral has money in the bank. He can spend it to burn through... What is this mech? What is this? What? Well, I really hope there's a Marauder. Hey, boys. One of these is not like the others. Close enough, though. Ooh, some more fungals. And now Serral still starting to... Not really starting, but definitely re-establishing control of the game. Kira really... He needs to start mining again. He only has this center base, and that one is not safe at all right now. The Broodlords are continually raining down on it. The Broodlord's pulling back for now. We're cutting it in half. So this, I think, sets the tone for the series pretty well. Serral's still making a lot of use. The Lings and Banes still looking very good. The tank pulled in. Not sure that actually helped in the long run. Try not to waste anything on those Hellbats. A bunch of ghosts going down, caught by some bungles. Effectively a mecha army here, but Liberators are actually quite good against a mecha army. He turns them against him. I believe he was targeting ghosts with the Liberators. So yes, indeed, Liberators quite a good unit against Terran. Serral borrows them for his unit composition. And how many ghosts? Remember when I said those ghosts and keeping them alive is a problem? Well, that problem's here again. Because the Infestors killed their major threat for the most part. There's only 4 ghosts left. Serral has only lost 4 Infestors. Kira has lost 18 ghosts. Those are unsustainable losses at this stage. And they both made a relatively similar amount of those spellcasters. A nuke at the front. A desperation play to buy a little bit of extra time. He's not going to let that go, right? Wow, he lets the nuke land on his doorstep. Kira. How many orbitals now? 5 orbitals. Not an overwhelming number. You can't just scan the entire map constantly, but it's pretty close. The Thor's trying to move up. He knows the Infestors are waiting until his Thors step a half lumber too far. Liberator's trying to zone out a little and late. Whatever happened to that fusion core? No advanced ballistics. No Caduceus reactor. Technically no Yamato cannon as well for listing off fusion core upgrades, but... Kira is just being choked out of this game. Serral, despite losing. Well, it's starting to even up the mineral count. He's just mined 12,000 more. He's taken 2-3 more bases. That'll do it. And now, pretty much the rest of the SCVs are vulnerable. He's down to 19. Not that there are that many mineral patches left to mine from, but Cure has maybe one more big fight left in him. But Thors are here. If he can land the EMPs, there's a lot of ifs I'm about to throw together. And against Serral, they are massive ifs. Which sounds inappropriate, but in this case is incredibly accurate. Why is there always an infester? One, it's not an if. There is an infester. There's always one infester. Okay? Serral always has one infester in the worst possible spot for your army to deal with. 2, if he's able to EMP all the other infestors, we're just gonna assume that one lives. Well, I'm sorry. The Thors, with some Hellbat and Ghost support, can beat the ground army and the Broodlords. The Thors are the probably en masse with no spellcasters, the strongest possible unit to have in the late game. You just need a bit of support, clear those Zerglings off their legs, and you got a good shot of making good things. Is he gonna do anything? What is in there? Is that an infester drop? He put banelings in there. I don't think that was on purpose. I think he accidentally morphed a dropper lord is what happened. But Cure has been playing defense for most of these 28 minutes. Oh, the cloak! Right on time, but the fungal! Cure, you're gross! Not again! Well, the Broodlords take a lot of damage. He can turn those Liberators. Or just bring them on over. Why not? Actually, a lot of spellcasting being used. Get back over here! Where are the Hydras? There's only 6 Hydras. There's some queens up there as well. As Serral slowly but surely consumes the map. Cure just can't find anything. So he's got 7k, 5k in the bank. He knows how dangerous the Terran army can be. Fighting a war of attrition is better than taking a heads-up engagement that you could potentially lose to what is probably a superior Terran army. Still, hey, you see some of those Zerglings singed heavily, but not completely roasted. There's only 2 medevacs left, both of them right there. Broodlords are going to take out that planetary, make things a little bit easier. There's a burrowed Zergling, making things even more difficult. I think last set of rocks are going to be finally taken down. The Infestor is still down there. Broodlings chasing down a well, Hellbats with Blue Flame do one-shot Broodlings now. I think they did before, but they still do. The army supplies are still very close to even, which is why Serral is being so careful. And also because he's Serral, is the second reason why he's being so careful. Serral is like if your tax forms came to life. Okay? Very meticulous, very detailed, but also very predictable. Also, you don't want to let anything slip. Serral's got plenty of infestors looking to take advantage of it. Cure refuses to tap out, as he still has an army that against almost anyone else. Well, there you go. Blinding Cloud. Turns the Thor. Turns the Liberators. More Thors looking the wrong way. Here come the Lings and Banes. A whole bunch of Neural Parasite. The Terran army. So effective against the Terran army. But the Thors have actually lived through much of this. Wait a second. And that kind of demonstrates the situation. I think Serral's rematch should be more than enough. But, despite turning approximately half the army against him, Cure still ends up winning the fight to some extent. A Pyrrhic victory. He has barely any HP on those Thors. He didn't really kill too many Infestors. He's only killed 6 this entire game, which is madness. But Cure was banking on the lack of bank from Serral. But Serral just flaunts his minerals and gas, shoves it in his face, kills his Thors with it, and says, we're going to game 2. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, and it did indeed start with the Cyclones. But at the end of the day, Serral dominates Cure in game 1. Even turns his Thors against him. That, well, it appears Serral is still Serral. We saw such a spread of units in that game, such a shift from, like, it felt like 3 separate games. Where we had the Roach Cyclone phase, and then we went into like a Hydra Infestor against Marine Tank, and then we went into like Mech versus Broodlords. It was 3 different eras of Terran versus Zerg in a single match. And we have more matches, believe it or not. Oh, I think you believe it. All right, that wasn't a hard sell. But game 2 is on Red Reticent Station, which the map maker acknowledges is pretty directly inspired by the infamous or notable, depending, I think of as infamous, King Sejong Station, a map that featured many dramatic games about half a decade ago, more than that. I remember the game from Beyond vs. Dark at the 2016 BlizzCon Finals, which was 2016 was 7 years ago. Distract yourself from the passing of time by pressing the like button and subscribing, and you can maybe make a little bit of your time each day a little bit better. Moving on. Command Center first. So, King Sejong Station was a particularly defensive map, very capable of sitting back on just 3 bases, and Reticent Station is no exception to that. You've got the expansion with an exposed mineral line, which siege tanks love. Though, there's not too many areas to take advantage of it, which is why there's so much dead space here. But also, there's a pocket base with 2 mineral trips. I believe it's 2 trips? Yeah. 10 minerals on the low ground. So you can take this base, which is walled by not just rocks. These rocks are all connected to each other, by the way. So you kill one of them. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I'm not 100%. Well, we'll see when we get to it. But there's also a mineral wall, so thankfully, no race has flying units that could just go over the top and drop in. Otherwise, that would make it a lot less defensible on the ground. But, yeah, you've got that pocket base back there. Got plenty of other bases. A gold one with normal gas geysers, but kind of an odd look to it for sure. It is not a copy of King Sejong Station, but it definitely has a lot of the attributes. I'm very interested to see how specifically Serral will play on this one, because I don't think this is... if there was ever a map to go with the roaches. This ain't... Oh my god. Cure's just building his 3rd CC on the low ground, because of course he can float it over. Why not? He goes for it. It's gonna be a full-on... He's going clones again. So, very interesting. The clones, they can be cost-effective. I honestly haven't seen too many games on the new patch. Like, while they're very different, I don't know if they're particularly strong in this matchup. Maybe if you build them en masse. I mean, last game Cure definitely did, but he didn't commit to the mech. He didn't follow it up with more. He went to the Marine tank. I don't think that was particularly a bad call, but overall, yeah, 10 minerals a piece on these. So 1 mule trip or 2 mining trips. But there's a double set, so you'd have to drop 2 mules, or these are mostly in case the defending player wants to take them down and kind of open up the opportunity to move out that way. 2 more clones, but then it is so weird for me, I'll be honest. After however many years of the Cyclone being kind of an expensive sniper unit, it is now a essentially like a more expensive Marauder almost. I guess that's not really the best description, but it's like a moving Stalker. Once again, with like double the DPS. But it is not incredibly costly to lose one or two of them. Whereas before, that was a significant percentage of your early investment. Of course, losing 4 Cyclones would easily make that cost quite significant, but it is difficult to lose 4 Cyclones this early. Trying to snipe off a Queen, chasing it down. Oh my god, hunted. And before there was any energy for transfuse, and here we go, 4 clones and 2 Hellions. High ground vision provided by the scan. There's not enough energy for transfuses here. The Queens are being sniped off. More Zerglings are coming out, but Serral didn't get Ling speed. Ooh. Already, I mean, the scans are potential lost economy, but Queens are also potential lost economy, and I think both keeping the creep spread contained here, which is what he's doing, he's containing Serral. Because this is really the only way out realistically. And if he can keep him bottled up on the top of his ramp, Kier can continue to dictate the pace of the game. He didn't go for Cyclones with speed this time. This was just essentially instead of getting Hellions, he added in 4 Cyclones, which slowed down some of the rest of the build, but allowed him, because Hellions don't kill Queens, or they shouldn't kill Queens. There are exceptions, but that's the rule. They're very relatively fragile units run by kill drones. But the Cyclones can fight head-on. And potentially, especially when the creep is reduced. So you know the Queens are not a big fans of being off a creep. And a double medevac drop is headed out. It appears Kier is very interested in playing the map in much the same way he played it 7 years ago. And Serral the same. Though we didn't see as much as Serral 7 years ago, but... well, 8, 7? I don't... Either way, Aspire. It's going to be Mutas. In order to try to deal with the medevacs, which could be a massive pain otherwise. I don't think Hydras are going to work. It almost forced into Mutas here. The damage output, though... Ooh. Those Cyclones doing a lot here. But... And they're also not particularly vulnerable to the Lings and Bangs. Obviously, a Surround going to do good, but they actually physically take up so much space. They can physically body block for the rest of the units, especially against those Banelings. Make it that much harder to get closer. Baneling speed closing in. Baneling speed research is a little bit quicker, but remember, that 5 less HP. And this is the first game we're seeing where the Banelings are being built at this early time. We got Mutas already on the way. Baneling speed is completed. Serral will hold on to his 4th for now. And he's got the Mutas out. So he's an active threat in the air. And on the ground, of course. But medevacs are not going to be able to have free reign across all the copious airspace they could potentially. Widowmines. Kier has always been one to really focus, like, instead of trying to force Marines to counter everything, he'll use those mines, he'll use those clones, he'll try it out. The Banelings are rolling in, but the Widowmine on the back line, Muta's trying to get damage done on the opposite side. But enough Marines to drive them away. Now both players, even a Thor on the wing. What I'm trying to say is Kier isn't as religiously... I'm not going to say addicted, but he doesn't abide by the rules of pure bio, like someone like Beyond, for example. Beyond will sometimes get stuck making Marines, and a lot of the time he'll make it work, is part of the problem. Whereas Kier has always used his entire toolbox. And just because that toolbox seems to feature a lot of Widow Mines, that's not on him, okay? That's just the tools at his disposal. And he's going to use them to dispose of his enemies. Drilling Claws is on the way. Oh, Widowmine's got a buff, which I know everyone was clamoring for. But Widowmines, and we're going to see here, with Drilling Claws, they now unburrow. I believe 50% quicker? They unburrow significantly quicker than they did. before. So Widow Mines are able to reposition more quickly once they get that drilling clause. The burrow speed is the same, but the unburrow and kind of like jumping back into medevacs and all that, if so interested, is what got buffed. The mutas, even Serral struggling to keep the mutas alive. He's lost 8 of them. How much has he really gotten for it? Has he gotten a medevac? No. Yes. I looked at the Zerg tab for some reason, and there was no medevac there, which, you know, makes sense. 2-2 on the way. Serral has taken another outside base as Kier takes his 4th. But it's going to be an upgrade advantage for the Terran, who has Marines, Mines, Thors. How many Thors? Even 1 makes it that much harder for the mutas to get too much done. And Serral, he does not have an infestation pit. He's locked into this Lair Tech army for now. So he needs to trade efficiently. The problem is Kier's maxed out. So good luck trading with an army designed to kill yours with inferior units. I mean, Serral's gonna do it with Banelings and trying to outmaneuver. But Kier is closing in. The creep spread is mediocre, as killing those queens early and keeping track of it has been, it's bearing fruit now, as he's able to essentially set up right on Serral's doorstep. Does he have an answer? A handful of Banelings are rolling in, definitely absorbing some fire. The Widowmine adds its own. And here comes Serral from pretty much every angle. The mutas from the back, Lings and Banes rolling through the center line. The Thor picked up at the last moment, but Kier is able to stand his ground, and a lot of the Marines survive the engagement. The push continues across the map. Not quite a parade push, but pretty damn close, as Kier brings his reinforcements streaming across. And he starts 3-3 as well. So not going to get locked in on those 2-2 upgrades this time around. More Lings and Banes. The Marines are splitting back. The Widow Mines trying to get the hits. I don't think really getting amazing ones, but Serral dips 25 supply almost instantly. And Widow Mines are killing Zerg and Terran alike. The Marines microing back. The splits are acceptable at best. And it ends up being, well, Kier actually ended up killing almost twice as many minerals and almost twice as much gas. So, at the end of the day, I think actually overall a victory, especially since he's keeping Serral busy and keeping his economy relatively contained. Right now, a trade is a win for Kier as he works his way towards +3/+3. That starts to change once Hive Tech kicks in. But right now, if Kier can trade even 1-for-1 against Serral, once 3-3 is done, those numbers are going to shift towards him. So right now, all he needs to do is hold it together against the next wave of mutas and put together a coherent +3/+3 push. This was the way the game was played throughout Wings of Liberty and much of Heart of the Swarm. And even some of Legacy of the Void, as we've seen mutas kind of phase in and out of the meta. Serral, it is definitely, I doubt we'll see mutas as the primary choice on any other map. But here, in an older school map, using an older school strategy, and it still checks out. Alright, Serral's maxed out yet again. He's finished up the Hive. He can start those upgrades. Adrenal Glands, +3/+3. They begin. But Kier is maxed out on his Terran infantry upgrades. So he is at maximum peak strength right now. It's not going to get any easier for him from this point. He wants to take a good fight, and indeed, it starts very well. The first wave of Banelings is gunned down without too much effort. Most of the mutas are taken down as well. The hatchery is taken out, which some broodlings added to the fight, but not enough, I don't think. And the Overseers, well, they're almost dragging the Widow Mines in, but another wave. The Banelings are literally cornered here as Serral tries to come back out, but a Thor has joined the back line. More Banelings attempting to roll through, but concussive shells on the Marauders slows down the trickle of Banelings to absolutely nothing. And the tide recedes yet again, and every time it feels like it's been pushed back further and further as Kier continues forward. But the medevacs are starting to run out of energy. Serral has held on. He's got Adrenal Glands on the way, and he keeps expanding to the sides. Much in the same way he did last game. He keeps outmaneuvering Cure, and Cure is simply just, he's not fast enough to kind of put down Serral's bases before Serral's able to put him right back up. Right now, 342 to 467 average APM, which incredibly respectable. And Serral, honestly, that feels a little low, but he's definitely a work smarter and harder kind of guy. But a Widowmine, embracing that very much. Down goes the gold. Not that I think Serral expected to be able to do that. Magic boxing onto the Thor. The Thor still getting decent damage done. Kills a couple mutas. Trying to close in. Another Thor is here. And, well, the mutas in the red, but not quite dead. He's lost 24 mutas throughout this. Widowmine burrows on burrows. There is a spot of creep here. Widowmine from downtown. Marauders and Marines. Most of the mineral wall has been taken out, cleared out by Serral in order to open up this path exactly. The Marauders forming a wall effectively in order to block out. The drones are on the run. Serral anticipating giving up this base. Look at him expand to the other side. But there are some Widowmines just taking a muta here, taking a muta there, and every one of them worth the cost. He will clean them up, as Serral is pretty diligent about bringing the Overseers, but Overseers always lag behind, even with the speed upgrade. And now Cure has the goal. The Muta's fighting the turrets, but there's some Widowmines, enough bio. And the Muta's looking for something, but Serral doesn't actually have any real hive tech. He has adrenal glands, and that's it. No Ultralists, no Lurkers, no Broodlords. Adrenal glands is good, but the Zerglings aren't cutting it right now. The Mutas are doing essentially a base trade here. More legs and Banes rolling through. The Thor is overrun. The Marines on the run themselves. The Liberator looks back and says, oh, wait a second, guys. You need some help? Just in time. The Thor pops up. It's like 2 barracks got taken out by Serral, which is not particularly helpful at this stage, but the Mutas, they need to join up with the rest of the army. Otherwise, Cure will grind his way through, and Serral will not be able to stop it. Plus, a 3 flyer attack is on the way. The Mutas have escaped from that back line, but Serral, oh, he keeps finding ways to mine. But it just feels like Cure is in command of this game in a way that he certainly wasn't the last one. The last one, Serral had options. Serral had ideas. But this time, Serral has mutas, which are a much more fragile and finicky thing. The Widowmine's dotting the field. He keeps putting a mine at the bases. He's found this base. The boys? How about that evac? No, we're coming to you. Another mine. Falling back here. No Caduceus reactor. I don't think there's a fusion core, but the open field is a dangerous place. Marines will join up. Somehow Serral gets the drones away. I think that's another one of the many things he does better than anyone else. Is he's just... Even when his base is scouted and his drones are vulnerable, he still somehow gets them out in time. He's still at 84 workers. He just needs somewhere to mine from. A Widowmine taken out. They're just dotting the field. All those little blue dots, those are Widowmines out there. Cure knows what he's about. Speaking of, he hid the mines behind the command center. Not even Serral noticed. And, oh, wow. Wow. Okay, well, Cure gets Serral to tap out mid-fight. Wow. It is so. I don't know how it even made it through the veto process. Serral may be a bit of a masochist himself. But, I will say, this was one of the most, well, it was somewhat Terran-favored map. Just outright, back in the end of Heart of the Swarm, and early Legacy of the Void. So, it does stand to reason, and I think you could tell there the advantages that Terran has with their cornucopia of flying units and other things that really exploit the layout. So now that that's out of the way, and we saw that mutas are just not going to be enough, we're all tied up 1-1. Cure versus Serral. And that was not a game like the one we saw at Masters Coliseum. The one that, yes, the singular game that Cure won. Cure won that with like a cheeky, I believe it was battle cruisers. With Serral completely blindsided by such like a weird build. That was a straight up M and T versus mutas and banelings. Though, if I might be so biased, the map definitely played a factor. There's no question about that. And I like having new ideas for maps. The problem is that's an old idea. Which is why I'm wondering why, it depends on the pick ban process that they used. Because I truly wonder if Serral had an opportunity to ban it. Because as a Zerg player, I'm 1/3 Zerg myself. Some of my best friends are Terran. Okay, it's okay. That is an instant. I played it 2-3 times, both sides of the matchup. Oh yeah, that's Terran. Especially nowadays. Zerg players, the 4 of you still playing the ladder, watching this video, veto it now. Veto it yesterday. You probably already knew that. But Serral, learning that lesson alongside the rest of us. Cure picking up a much-needed win, which, well, boosts his chances, and I think that's a big confidence booster. Despite what I just mentioned, not like Cure was making mistakes. He kept the pressure on. That Cyclone opener looked like quite a thing. Okay. That is the most viable-looking Cyclone opener that didn't end up in, like, just a mass Cyclone build that I've seen so far. Just 4 clones. Just replace the Hellions with them. Gives you a lot more pressure against the Queens without a massive commitment. It's not cheap. Make no mistake, it's not cheap. But it isn't out of the realm. Like, it doesn't significantly slow down the rest of the build. So I think the risk-reward is very acceptable. And so does Cure, clearly, who's the master of risk-reward. He knows what to build. As you saw, his APM. Now, for reference, Clem and Maru have between 400 and 450 average APM. APM isn't the be-all, end-all, but at this level, you can kind of gauge it. Gumiho has around 300. Cure was right around 350 that last game, so notably less than your more micro-oriented. I haven't looked at Beyond. I'm gonna assume it's well over 400, but I'm not exactly sure for Beyond. I point out Maru and Clem, well, especially Clem, because those are the players who usually have a chance, well, mostly Clem, against Serral. Cyclones are out. Not particularly bad against small amounts of lings. More clones on the way. Looks like the 4-clone opener. A lot of lings from Serral. He's just going to try to surround this outright. You really don't want to lose these clones. I think it's a bit suspicious to Cure here. It is a lot more costly than even... Well, losing the Hellions is not good either. There's no scenario where losing your early factory units is not a costly scenario. It's just more likely with the clones, because they're slow, they're clunky, they can easily be surrounded. It's only when they find some friends. Speaking of... Oh, Serral runs away from just 2 clones. He knows the rest are coming back. He has overlords to scout, but... This is why I do love watching Cure, though. Like, you can take these builds and copy-paste them out of the ladder. They're not particularly... they're not particularly hard to follow or even particularly hard to execute. They're just consistent. And even against Serral, putting on a lot of pressure. I think he's decided on seeing all those lings in the quick third, realizing that it's not going to be super fast lair, even though it's a relatively fast lair. Just adding all the way up to 6 clones here. He's so focused. But, of course, at any point, you can just switch back in towards the biome. The Zergling's looking for a surround. That's a lot of queens with some transfuse energy. Very important. The Zergling count, it's going to be a baneling nest behind it. Double Evo chamber now. Yeah, that's a bulky army there. And the queens, the thing I'm noticing the most is how easily he's able to control the creep spread compared to your average game. Yeah, he bullies the queens back. The big issue with controlling the creep spread usually is that the Hellions die to queens. So you can only kind of poke and prod at the edges. But the Cyclones have no fear. The Cyclones are more than capable of hunting down those queens, denying bases. Only the areas where Cure hasn't been to has there been any real creep to speak of. And again, as soon as Serral pops some more out, immediate scan. First opportunity. Right now, yeah, Cure starting to build Marines back at home. This is the end of the mech army composition, but God, these Cyclones. Well, here come the Banelings. They don't have speed. And the Zerglings kind of... Well, the Cyclone's crumbling relatively easily here. So overall, this is very hard to gauge. I haven't quite seen anything like this. I can't pretend to make an assessment. I will, though. That did seem like it was cleaned up relatively easily. But it's a lot of larva and a lot of time delayed both on the upgrades and the... Well, Serral's building 3 hatcheries right now to make up for that lost map control. As he does have a decent worker count. Especially when you consider that he's counterattacking and killing a bunch of Cures. Wow, Cure just sprints back. This counterattack, I think, has made up most of the lost ground here. As 62 to 56 workers. And Cure comes back with the medevacs. Again, I think Cure put himself in a good position, but he just kind of put himself out of it. He got baited into... I mean, Serral obviously baited the hook there, but in pulling these first 2 medevacs back, the follow-up map control he gains from getting those medevacs, Serral now has more than enough Lings and Banes. There was maybe a window he could have taken advantage of that, but Serral closed it, slammed it on his fingers, pretty much. And now, Cure has a bit of an uphill battle. Somewhat literally, but mostly figuratively, as medevacs. Ooh. Yeah, those Marines targeting the Banes, not getting too fancy with it. Can't wait to see Beyond. But Beyond didn't make it this far. Okay, so the Marines just gunning down the Zerglings. There is 1-1 versus just +1 attack. So the Marine's not going to do amazingly well. Serral, consolidating his forces. He's got a decent economy, he's got plenty of production, and he's got a hive on the way. So, it's all coming together. Now, Cure not doing so bad himself. He's got plenty of production. He's got a Widow Mine trying to bait out the shot, but still not falling for it. Doesn't matter, retargets, gets a hit on some Ling Bane. But delaying action from Cure. That hive. Are we going to see the Ultras? Ultras, now 25 minerals off. What a discount. Only 275 minerals and 200 gas. Still 200 gas, by the way. But, so that's something. Also takes 1 more snipe from Ghost, technically. It kind of feels like an Ultra game to me. So, we will see. No infest, well, maybe some infestors soon, but Adrenal Glands certainly. And then, well, there's a Widow Mine. Drop Drilling Claws. Serral not looking. Ooh, 7, 8, 9. Gets 9 drones. Quite a significant take. And, of course, the drop will stay alive. A bunch of Zerglings. Banelings are, I assume those are Banelings, are rolling by. Great Sim City here. Baneling's rolling in. He picks up the Widow Mine. Just one. There's some more Widow Mines. They kill themselves effectively. Cure also struggling on the field. Loses so many to the Banelings. Cure really struggling to keep up on all the fronts right now. Some of which he opened up. Loses the command center. Now his supply block because a depot burns down. It's a series of small combining into a moderate to large disaster. As Cure, right as it looks like he finds his footing again, crumbles on multiple fronts and only has a shaky precipice left to stand on. Viper's on the way. I don't think Serral needs the Ultras now. What he needs to do is just keep Cure off of a 4th base. A medevac just oh my god, it's in the water. That's so sick. Anyways, I've never seen that before, but we've never had like shallow ponds like this. Well, Serral retaking pretty much all the map he lost, and then some. Some Widow Mines trying to be zoned out, picks up into the medevacs. Oh, decent hits here, but Serral can eat them and ask for seconds, though I'm sure he won't, because nobody likes asking for even the first with Widow Mines. Alright, looking for another base, more mines, and drawn in. The Widow Mine's doing terrible, terrible damage to the medevacs as well. The most damage to the medevacs has been dealt by Widow Mine so far, but I'm sure the Vipers with Parasitic Bomb are not too far off. Cure he's running out of income. Yeah, a few mules to alleviate it, but he doesn't have a 4th base. He needs a 4th base. Serral has, I can't even, 6? Yeah, it's not super solid, but it's plenty enough. The Banelings, not close to the distance. Parasitic Bomb wipes out all of the medevacs. Go tell your friends what happened here. Oh no, it's a disaster yet again. Cure, struggling. He can't keep the medevacs alive. He can't keep the Marines alive. Serral is everywhere, and Cure is unable to keep up right now. Dragging the Widow Mines all the way back. The medevacs are clearly not enough to keep up with this. More mines, more delaying tactics, because Serral will keep sending Zerglings. It's not about how many units he has, it's about how many he can replace them with. 260 lings lost so far, and that, at this rate, is just the beginning. I've seen almost that many in the production tab before. Oh no. Oh, that Widow Mine so close to getting the juiciest hit of the game. And that's stiff competition, but Banelings are squeaking through here. He actually kills a starport. As the Banelings couldn't get anywhere else, as the Marauder just kind of... the Bouncer Marauder just body blocking him out of the way. Burrow on the way here. No, the only later game tech was the Hydras. The Hydras, their upgrades kick in a little quicker. I believe Hydra range is a little bit cheaper, 25 cheaper. That's more of a ZVP implication, as usually at this stage of the game you have all the upgrades. Speaking of, though, 3-3 finally finishing up for Serral. +3 attack is done for Cure, but only +2 armor. +3 armor's a long way off. He just didn't add it on with it. But he's kept himself in the game here. Serral, without the lurkers, without these hive-tech units, it feels like he just can't close. Literally and figuratively now, as the units are just not getting to Cure's bases with enough of them intact to really make the difference. Cure's only on 4 bases here. There's the lurker den from Serral. That is his choice for how to try to really get more damage done. Feels like Cure's been on borrowed economic time for quite a while, but he's still going. And the army supplies are about even because Cure's only on 64 CVs. Lurker den nearly completed. Is there a Widow Mine in there somewhere? The Planetary Fortress certainly going to help. Does he have enough Zerglings? He's thinking about it. And those Banelings are going to pay the price for the hesitation. It's weird to see Serral hesitating at all. He may have just queued those up, but still, like, losing a few units here and there when... wait, what is in the natural? Oh, that's just an Overseer hanging out. Kjær has another command center. I believe Burrow is done. Burrow's been done for the Widow Mines for quite a bit. Of course. Oh no. Finally. The money shot. Oh my. 90 Zerglings killed in the last 45 seconds. To 15 Marines, 4 mines. Sure, it adds up, but that is a lot of larva and a lot of momentum. Serral always seems, he's just too good with the larva, but the mines are certainly dictating the pace of the game here. Even a single one can turn a fight, perhaps unrecoverably, really for either side. But the momentum is slowly shifted as Serral does not have the lurkers yet, and without him, God, the damage being dealt by Widow Mines to every unit on the field. Don't worry, those Marines are not going home to their wives and children's. Widow Mine indeed. Serral just doesn't run out of larva. I don't know how he does it. Mechanical injects. Planetary Fortress finishes in time. The first lurkers are spotted and killed. There just weren't enough of them. The Bio Army overruns. And another mine on the back line. He gets a shot, and with the Banelings off a creep, he's able to blunt the effect of it. Looks like some more Zerglings tried to make their way through. A big surround here. Kjær, parasitic bomb on the medevacs, but there's still enough HP for now. And Kjær has certainly taken back a lot of the momentum. More mines. Looking for a shot. They'll get it. On both sides of the map. Well, Serral down to 152 supply. Finally starting to dip. The larva is starting to run out. I don't know if it's the money, if it's the injects, but he just isn't keeping up anymore with the amount of units that Kjær is bringing to the table. Now, Kjær is not maxed out himself. He doesn't have a Does he have a Ghost Academy? He doesn't. So he's very limited in how long he can deal with lurkers. There are 5 lurkers on the field. They have both their upgrades for the late game. So there's plenty of opportunity here. Oh my god. Are those hold position? I don't know. But I think they are. Oh my... Is this how he's gonna do it? Those lurkers. There's no way they wouldn't have attacked. He's got them on hold fire. Why would you scan here? Right? He's gonna try to use the burrowed hold fire lurkers. I've never seen this work. But if anyone's gonna make it work, it feels like a bit of a desperation tactic. It's not so many lurkers he can't afford to lose them. He is maxed out, but still. It is an interesting time when Serral is trying these things out. These lurkers will zone. Another base is taken down. Serral simply doesn't have the army to keep up on both fronts right now. He's trying to consolidate. There are ghosts on the way. He's Kjær is not giving this up quite yet, but oh my god, he's moved the lurkers. They are certainly on hold position. This is it. This is the moment. Do it. He uses it. He slices through 20-30 supply instantaneously. Jimmy! One more time. That's not what I meant to bring up the battle report, but thank you for interpreting the correct meaning. One more time. Enhance. He holds, but he waits, and then slices through. Kjær with a quick reaction. Oh my god, it actually slices through the ragdolls of the bodies. But the lurker's now in between Kjær and the rest of his base. He's forced to retreat into the medevacs. And while Kjær has a lot of army supply, it's just strung out, disjointed. He needs to bring it together, but the medevacs are even going down to parasitic bomb. Where are the ghosts? There are 4 ghosts on the field. There are 13 lurkers, and they're closing in on the base. Banelings cover it. Down goes the planetary. A whole lot of Marines alongside it. 9 SCVs as well. And those lurkers aren't going anywhere easily. Well, unless Serral unburrows them. I think he had some different hotkey from the hold fire. But now that threat is on the field, how do you like Burrow? Kjær slowed down noticeably. He brought everything back. And during that time, Serral retook 2-3 bases. He reestablished that income. And oh my, has his greatest income lead of the last 10 minutes here. What a play. What a turnaround here. just using essentially lurkers like Widow Mines. Sure, they might not kill units and cost way more, but they are very difficult for someone who's sitting on 3 orbitals with one of them in the air right now to deal with. And Cure is one bad fight, or one even mediocre fight, away from defeat. The Holdfire Lurkers ripping through his army and his mental stability, I think, as clearly the momentum completely killed by it. Not just the units, but Cure's kind of rotation of drops out on the map, his ability to keep pressure on Serral, his ability to keep Serral from getting 3,500 gas or minerals and 1,500 gas in the bank while being maxed out on 6-7 bases. That is all gone. And now Serral, well, thinking about moving in further. There's the Infestor. Ah, it's Jeffrey, the Infestor. The sneakiest of all Jeffs. His name is indeed Jeff. The Widow Mine. That Infestor always, as soon as he builds it, somehow it's always exactly where it needs to be. The best possible spot. A drop is actually uncontested here. Serral will use this opportunity. He's going to go for the kill. Widow Mine blunts some of the force of the attack. Blinding Cloud. The Infestor is still there. Another burrowed unit. He knows how good they are. Cure's debit. Well, okay. Does he even need it? What a flex. The ghosts on the back line. There is detection. It's way too much. That's it. Serral has turned it around. It was touch and go. But Cure, don't let the Widow Mines hit you on the way out. Lurkers, more than enough. The M&M. I gotta say, kind of a crazy game out of Cure here. From the Cyclones all the way into almost pushing Serral into defeat. I think it was trending that way. But Serral's able to turn it around and take it 2-1. But this is a much, much closer series. No matter how the next game or two goes, this is a much closer series than we saw just a few weeks ago. So certainly, there's quite a difference. I think we can attribute most of it to the new patch, with Widow Mines being a bit more maneuverable, and I think clearly the Baneling nerf is a significant part of it. With Banelings being a much less reliable option, it clearly makes playing that Lingbane style harder. Not impossible by any means, but harder. As it's not like Widow Mines weren't killing Lings and Banes relatively easily before. No, of course they were. But everything else being added on top is that little extra sauce, making it that much harder to really commit to a fight. We saw Serral doing a lot of... there weren't too many times when he was splitting off just the smaller groups of units, but instead waiting until he got a more full surround. And I think Cure making good use of the buff to Widow Mines, repositioning and spreading them out constantly. I mean, Cure, for better or worse, depending on whether you're looking by results or by just general ethics, probably the best Widow Mine user in the world. Probably the person who's found the most success from the Widow Mine. Beating Zest in the GSL finals with an almost embarrassing... Zest has had a lot of embarrassing GSL finals, though. But they were GSL finals, is the key point. Well, another notable thing is the shift to the 3-per build. The 2 racks, 3 Reaper or more, sometimes 3 racks, seems to be essentially superseded here by the Cyclone Hellion. We're back to the 1-1-1 sort of style, or even just the factory style. In fact, indeed, did he even build a Starport unit early? I think Cure just skipped Starport in favor of more Cyclones, which does make some sense. They do cost gas, so... Very interesting. It feels like Cure has found the appropriate niche for the Cyclone, which is kind of sitting at the edge of the creep, making sure it doesn't go any further. I do think it could have gotten even more with it. It's just Serral kind of outmaneuvered him, which was the story of the entire game by the end of it. Reaper. Well, whoa. Quite a series so far. And we still potentially have so much more. Hopefully you have enjoyed some the games on the new patch. Hopefully you enjoyed my commentary. Shout out to World Team League again, as always, it seems, for putting on these matches, explicitly showing off some of the changes on the new patch, bringing out the best players. And make sure to check them out if you get the opportunity. Jimmy will definitely have the link in the script. Right, Jimmy? Right? I know. But, once again, the clones. Are we witnessing another relatively new shift to the Terran versus Zerg meta, or is it going to end up being a fad? Honestly, if the Cyclone remains as is, which anybody's guess at this point, it does seem like this is the niche it'll fill. That early game, just a stronger, like a stronger Hellion. But filling a similar role in the early game of keeping control of the creep, making sure that the queens don't get too rowdy. You know how it is. This time around, though, we do have a starport, as indicated by the starport units and also the starport itself. Well, I don't need to explain this. It's obvious. Right, commentate important things like how beautiful this map is and how pervert pillars don't work if they have air units too. Down goes an Overlord. Serral does have one extra, though, so he's not too supply blocked by that. Cyclone Hellion, just such a focus on keeping that creep controlled. We haven't seen the roaches since game 1, by the way. Don't believe we've seen a roach since game 1. I'm remembering correctly. Kind of surprised as I was... Okay, he's trying way too hard here. So Kira was trying to do the attack your own unit to get the Hellion fire to kill the creep tumor thing, but instead he took way too long and the queens just killed the Reaper, which is one of the most Kira things I've ever seen. Well, the medevac is here. I think the medevac is more here for mobility, but also just for high ground vision, to be honest. Liberator, looking for an opportunity. Heading in towards the main. The Marines slurped up. Liberator just gonna hang out in the main base. I assume there's a queen here. Ends up getting a few drones. A couple larvae. I don't know about that. The Liberator just was sent out like 2 minutes ago and finally made it there and decided, you know what? Orders are orders. And it's gonna be bio yet again. Doesn't feel like the medevac provided much. Even though we got high ground vision and killed the overlords, it feels like more Cyclones certainly would have been a superior choice. I mean, there's still an opportunity to do some damage here, but look at that worker count. Serral's at 67. He's getting 2 more hatcheries. The moment that Cure backs off his creep, he's making sure he's double expanding. He's going to use whatever space and expand into all of it. A Spire is on the way as well. Armory all ready for Cure. Which I think is a little early in terms of his upgrades, but better to have it and not need it, and then need it and not have it. For sure. I also got the Hellions back at home. We could use some Hellbats as well with the army. We're on defense. So, it's going to be Mutas yet again. I'm kind of surprised not to see the Hydras, but Well, the Zerglings get the surround on the Hellions, and now again the SCVs are vulnerable. He's going to lose at least a few of them. The Banelings with speed. They just bust through. The natural is in so much... Oh, it's a disaster. It could just be wrapping it up right here. Not exactly going home early, but this is not going well. 1-1 in combat shield about to finish. Well, this attack is happening. The army supplies are still about even. Most of the army... Well, Serral has almost no army at home. Just Queen... Well, he has a bunch of Banelings. Okay, there you go. Again, the Zerglings run in. There is no wall at the natural. It was ripped down by the Zerglings and Banelings. Serral closing in on 1-1 upgrades, but he gets a siege tag jammed at the very back corner here. What a nasty positioning. And now the siege tank's taking big hits onto the Banelings. Banelings, oh, he dives into the medevacs. That siege tank body blocked by Cyclones, taking its pick of Banelings to kill. What a disgusting position, but Kira gets about as much damage as you could expect there, but at the end of the day, Serral cleans it up. He forces the Marines back, and now Mutas. He actually didn't build Mutas until now. I think focused entirely on making sure he can clear the army. A big mistake a lot of players make, well, not too many try Mutas at all, is trying to get the Mutas out when you don't have enough army to clear the field. Because Mutas are not really fighting units. They're just angry bats who do a lot of worker harassment. And probably should be reported for it. But at the end of the day, the Mutas are, well, they're out. Yep, they're flapping around. I know. What a weird commentary. And does Cure have a turret? No, but he does have some Marines back at home. So I guess he has something. Well, the SCV is going to get hit, clearly. Cure not expecting this, but able to react with some of the reinforcements. A couple siege tanks on the low ground over there. Here's into the main. Cure just keeps taking hits. He's rolling with... His army supply is pretty good still. Marines don't cost too much. Serral going to lose another base? Is he going to try to fight before it? He's not quite going to get there. Turret goes up. And Serral just goes for the big counterattack, which is quite a bold move. Yeah, it feels like some real indecision here. As Serral isn't... Well, he's got Mutas in the army. The thing is the 2-2, or the +2 attack on the Marines as well. It's still advantage to Serral, but he doesn't have the upgrades, and he lost his 4th base again. He doesn't have a macro hedge, so his production is thin at the moment, is a way to put it, at least. But at the same time, Cure is once again... Well, he's sitting in the middle of the map at the moment. Will he go forward? Will he go back? He should choose one or the other. The army supply, 114 to 113. And Cure has that upgrade advantage. Not by a lot, but just the +2 to +1. Siege tanks. The creep is still there. If Serral wants to fight, well, there's still creep. Now's the time. Losing some of the drones here. Huge group of Marines, but the siege tanks are just a bit too much, and the Mutas aren't here to take them out. Cure rotating around to bop another base. The Marines are fighting the Mutas, but that's protecting the tanks for now, and the base is already dead. Another group of Marines zone out the Mutas. And a Venn diagram of freedom is covering the tanks as well. The Liberators there. Not going to be incredible against the Marines, but not a single Widow Mine in this army. But still putting a lot of pressure on the Serral right now. The Queen's out at the front, trying to get some transfuses, but the Marines doing a lot of damage. And Mutas from the back, trying to take out the tanks. The choke point on the ramp. Marines retreating back. The tanks themselves forming something of a wall off. More Marines on the back line. The Liberator's still doing a lot of damage, but Cure getting cleared up yet again. He kept most of the medevacs alive, which is the saving grace here. Serral low on the larva, but making what use of it he can. Here comes Cure again. With what survivors he has, it's not like Serral has a lot left over here. The Mutas continuing to take out the reinforcements. That's the Mutas we know and love. But the Marines don't love them as much. +2 armor's done for him. Upgrades are even. +1 flyer attack for the mutas. Well, here comes Kier, but that's still a lot of banelings. Ooh, does he know which medevacs? And at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. Kier is still staying in it. He's a couple bad banelings away from tapping out of this series, but we will see. Oh, the mutas gets one more, but one muta isn't going to be enough. The one thing Kier has done is limit Serral's economy, as you can see here. Well, the 4th base just came up, so I think that's going to trend right back towards Serral. And he's broken his covenant. He said, I'll play 1 game without Widow Mines. But then he said, well, that's a lot of mutas. And now for the first time in 13 minutes, which is quite a lot of restraint for Kier, he's building mines. That is so many mutas. Serral does not have an infestation pit. He does not have a hive. He does not have that late game potential, but Kier might not when the engineering bays, which are surprisingly vulnerable to this exact scenario, well, he loses +3 weapons, which is kind of a huge deal. And that was one of the major advantages Kier was relying on. Part of the reason I think he's still sitting back at his base, to get those upgrades and potentially have a better fight at as close to maxed out supply as he can. But very simply, Serral took that from him, and now he's looking to take more. The Widow Mines over to the right flank. I don't know if he spotted them or he just got very lucky on his pathing there. Overseer starting to be built. But Kier, oh my god, the Widow Mine positioning. Kier, it's a Hail Mary right now. Hail Mines, really. Also, mine's a bit of a misnomer for a reloading automated missile platform, but that's what we're calling them. We're going to see here. Is Serral, as soon as those mines are spotted, he has to be so much more careful with the mutas. But does he see this mine? Oh, Widow Mine gets a connection. Gonna soften up the entire flock here. Is Drilling Claws done? No, not even started. He doesn't have a second factory for it. In the main, being very careful at the edges, just so meticulous. It is a tedious process. Meanwhile, the Lings and Banes, finally the infestation pit on the way for Serral, finding some space. Kier looking the other way as the Banelings roll in. So many Banelings as he tries to break through. The Widowmine's not able to burrow in time. And the Zerg army is getting outflanked. Serral retreats. I mean, he can refill. Why not go back again? He's just trying to make sure that Kier does not get his 4th up. He's got to keep that. Actually, that's his main, but it's becoming his 4th. As he floats it on over. The Widow Mine. Well, 1 siege tank, I believe, is taken down, but he actually spotted that mine, despite the layout there. Hive is halfway done. I don't know if Kier has scanned lately. For, no, he has not. It still looks like a hatch there. I was wondering if he was looking for it. The main base. Enough Marines to give pause here. +1 fire attack, not enough to quite one-shot the turrets, but getting very close to it. And now Serral is mining from the gold. Here on gold and oro. Only 6 mineral patches there, but gives you that extra boost. Kier is just trying to sit back and max out. His best opportunity, what he's aiming for, is to be so cost-effective in one fight that you don't have another one. He's trying to make the best possible army, and once he gets +3, I think it's time to move out and do or die. The Marines, Marauders in the front. Banelings trying to find a target, doing okay so far. But somehow the Terran seem to be outflanking the Zerg, at least in these choke points. Mutas. There's the Ultraless Cavern for the first time. We now see Kier. Well, the reinforcements are cut off, but that's a lot of supply Serral committed to the main base. So it's just going to be the ground armies. Here we are. and trying to get rid of the Widow Mines here. Not doing an well, the Banelings, they don't show up. I think it's bugged out a little. It's always a little odd with Banelings, but I don't see... The Banelings all died. That's all I know. There's more Banelings here. Is there a Widow Mine? It's not close enough. The Mutas took some big hits on the way out. Cure just refuses to die. Adrenal Glands is on the way. The army supply is still damn close to even. But Cure trying to break through. More mines, huge hits. But the Zerglings are on the base. The Banelings are trying to roll through here. You're able to pull back. It's still on creep, though. 16 SCBs down. There's just nothing left back at home here for Cure. Serral, wave after wave, is continuing to crash into the Marines. Trying to run away here. The mines almost being drawn into the Terran army. The Mutas are still ransacking the main. The Zerglings at the natural. And Cure taps it out. That's 3 for Serral, which makes me very confused because I have one more match. So either Jimmy set them up in the wrong order, or it's an all matches played show match. I'm not sure which one. Which I think actually adds more drama now because... either 1, we can blame Jimmy, or 2, we get another exciting game. But Serral wins 3. So much closer. Certainly, I think you can clearly feel the Baneling nerf in these games here. And we do have one more on LCO. I don't know exactly what happened, but here we have them starting out. Once again, shout out to World Team League, SC Boy, the Chinese casters, who put on so many amazing events, very popular as well. Despite there being no Chinese server, so, which is impressive to organize just all of this. And great to see the games and send them along. Thank you very much. But this is the final match, okay? And you know what? I don't even want to verify whether or not it's either in the wrong order or all matches played. But I'm glad, because it makes it that much harder to realize I really thought the Mutas wouldn't be enough. Cure might be able to turn it around, but the Mutas eventually picked him apart. Serral still. Well, everyone who talks about Serral, who isn't Zerg for the most part, just talks about him as being... So, Oliveira, recently... The world champion, by the way, that we did play against Marvin Serral, says that against Raynor, who's second best Zerg in Europe, one of the best Zergs in the world, 50-50. All right, go back and forth. I think this was before the new patch. Whereas against Serral, he just tries to make it so he doesn't have much bank. AKA Serral wins every single game. It's just he tries to get him kind of close, so he's not too far ahead. In the later game. But Serral is a machine. And even cut the Baneling HP again. Alright, cut it. Make the Queen have 0 move speed off creep. Just whatever momentum it had on creep, it'll keep going at 10% of that speed, and it can't change direction. How about that? Okay. Then maybe Serral will finally be put into his place. All right, and now chop off his hand. Okay, we can't. We can just nerf the bait. But 2 CCs, 3rd hatchery. I do think it's clear the difference. It has been. This is the patch in almost every way is a boon to Cure of all players. A player who doesn't have as high APM, but makes great use of all the various, very efficient tools that Terran has to offer. From Cyclones, to Widow Mines, to more Widow Mines, and then some Widow Mines, and even more Widow Mines, and occasionally Marines with some Widow Mines to back them up. Cure is definitely... I'm sure he wasn't complaining about those Widowmines being a bit more maneuverable. The Mutas did not get a buff in the patch. But against Cure, especially, and in general, well, you can see the big weakness. I still don't think for anyone but Serral, maybe Dark on a good game. I mean, it's just, you can see how much effort Serral was putting in just to try to keep him alive. I just don't see Mutas as a viable option for anyone who isn't Serral. And even for Serral, it's still touch and go. As soon as the Widowmines hit the field, those Mutas became a lot more timid. Though they eventually ended up making the difference. And here we have Cyclones again. But again, a transition into battle. This reminds me of when the battle cruiser openers were popular. When, what would happen is all the non-Korean players are like battle cruisers, big mech unit, all right? You gotta go mech after it. You've already invested hundreds of minerals, hundreds of gas in getting battle cruisers. Whereas Korean Terrans, who are, by and large, the strongest, with Clem the notable exception, we're just like, no. We go all the way up the tech tree to battle cruisers. And then we still go Marines. Like, and that really does feel like what's happening here. It's like, we're gonna get whatever good tech is good early, and then Marines. And Marines, they've never gotten a buff outright. Well, Stimpak being reduced in build time slightly a few years ago was the only buff. But they've also never gotten a nerf. Of course, indirectly, things like the Disruptor costing more supply, the Baneling doing less damage against light, the Baneling having less HP, the Lurker not being as fast in general, Fungal Growth doing what? These are all indirect buffs to the Marine. They're... What I'm disappointed in, though, Kier, I know you're listening, I know you're watching, I'm sure. Big fan. No Caduceus reactor. This man's making 5 barracks. How many barracks do you need? It's gonna be 8. The Octo-Rex. Serral is playing a cookie cutter. This has been... You know, I picked the right game to do the meta talk on, I guess, as that 4 Zerglings and an Overlord. I mean, there was no real other choices. It was a very close series, which stands out because the last one was not. And you can go rewatch. Please go rewatch. I thought it was a fun series to watch, but the last one was Kira got his one game and then Serral swept the floor. This feels a lot more like a brawl, like a back and forth where Serral clearly stronger, faster, harder in various ways. But Cure still hanging with him here. I don't know how much we attribute to the maps, to the patch. Is that what we want? Well, if the idea was to nerf Banelings and kind of encourage... Well, so far, Serral has shown that he's still going to make Banelings. Just maybe a few more. So that has been a success. But in encouraging other unit compositions, I think so far, not so much. He attempted roaches in game 1 and ended up with the Banelings either way. So we will see as time goes on. Wow, this has been such a passive game. That's complete. Maybe it was like the last match and now like Serral's already won. That would make the most sense to me because like the other games just constantly sitting there at the edge of everything. Now it's been 7.5 minutes of essentially no rush. He's using the little watchtower area here on a Cyclone. Alcyone? I don't know. All I can see is a Cyclone when I look at the map name, so. And when I look in the middle of the map, all I see are 4 Cyclones. Well, 1 Cyclone blocking this little watchtower choke point, which is quite a thing to have. As there is certainly one race that benefits heavily from these. And it's Lurkers, which are not a race in and of themselves, but still. It's been a long series. Infantry weapons level 2. Cure looks like he's gonna max out as quick or maybe a little quicker than Serral here with essentially a macro trainer build. Serral doing a massive counterattack, but Cure swinging with all his might towards Serral as well. Huge counterattack though. Gonna cut off all the reinforcements, but will the banelings be enough? He didn't send any banelings. They're just getting gunned down. A few of them make it through. The Marines are getting taken out. And 18, it just seems like you're not protecting his economy. Well, Serral, how many banelings are left? The army supply is still very much in Cure's favor. So, Serral gutted his economy, but the baneling nest goes down. Wait a second. The medevacs are healing. The last round of banelings is finishing up here. And that's not gonna be enough. Well, unless Cure has the worst splits of his career, which is quite a challenge. 2-2 versus 1-1 with no upgrades finishing. Serral rushed to Hive, but Cure drags the game back. They both sat back, built up what they wanted, and Cure just sent it. He sacrificed much of his economy back at home, but a knockout blow in a single swing is how we're gonna finish off this show match, this experience here. So, Jimmy, oh my god, how many times do we have to go over this? We're not streaming anymore. It's called a recording for... but of course, if you want to see more commentary in the patch, you can check out the stream. And I hope you enjoyed my commentary here. I think, I keep saying this, but definitely an educational series. The conclusion for me is, well, if you wanted to nerf Serral, you've succeeded. Is it going to make him not #1 in the world? Possibly. We will see. What do you think? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, if got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon, YouTube membership. Either way, like, subscribe, all of that. Thank you again to World Team League for putting on the tournaments and settling on the games. Otherwise, good luck. Have fun. I'll see you next time. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.